Welcome back to the English from A to Z.
We're so glad you've joined us for this deep dive. We know you're here because you want knowledge, you want it quickly, and today, we've got something really practical.
Oh, absolutely. We're tackling that conversational mental block.
The one everyone has.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have a productive, busy day, it's full of activity, but then someone asks you, so how was your day?
And your mind just hits a wall.
It's blank.
Yeah.
You feel stuck with like the 4 basic verbs. I worked, I ate, I slept.
And that gap between what you did and what you can say you did, that's where all the frustration is. The sources we looked at, though, they give us a great shortcut.
What's that?
It's a chronological roadmap of the daily routine. It's packed with all these essential verbs and phrases that just click into place.
So our mission today is to get you beyond just single vocabulary words and into those full phrases, the context that native speakers use every day. We'll go right from waking up to
hitting the pillow.
Mm-hmm.
And if you master the language of your routine, you can pretty much talk about anything.
Okay, let's jump in. Where do we start?
Let's unpack the most chaotic but maybe most important time of day. The morning routine.
Right. And let's start with the one sound that is, I think, universally hated.
Yeah.
The alarm clock.
Ugh, yes. We often say the alarm goes off. Or, if you're like me, you're hitting the snooze button.
Repeatedly.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that little delay is important because it brings up our first key distinction.
Which is?
Wake up and get up. They are not the same thing.
Oh, that's a good one. So you might wake up at 7, your eyes are open, but you don't actually get up, physically roll out of bed until, say, 7.15.
Exactly. Knowing that little difference immediately makes your description sound so much more advanced.
And once you finally do roll out of bed, what's next for most of us is essential energy.
Coffee.
Coffee. And we're not just saying drink coffee. We're talking about grabbing a cup of joe or making a strong brew. The phrasing itself implies it's fast and necessary.
And while you're sipping that, you might grab a bite to eat. The source material says morning food is usually quick. A piece of toast, some fruit.
Right. It's not some big fancy meal. It's a small breakfast just to get you fueled and out the door.
Yeah, what if you have kids?
Ah, okay. This is where we get into some really indispensable jargon. Because your morning is not your own anymore. You have to help the children get ready for school.
Which means you're doing a million things at once. You're trying to make their lunch or pack a lunchbox.
You're stuffing books into their backpack.
And the key term, the one we really need to highlight, is the school run.
Yes, the school run. You can't guess that phrase, but everyone who speaks English will know exactly what you mean, whether you're driving or walking. That whole chaotic morning sequence.
That's the school run. It just captures that rush of saying goodbye, dropping them off at the school gate.
Okay, before we move on to the workday, let's do a quick practice moment.
I like this.
We want this to be active, not just passive listening. So think back on what we just said, hitting snooze, rolling out of bed, grabbing coffee.
Right. So right now, I want you, the listener, to just quickly and silently narrate what your morning looked like. Use maybe the last 3 action phrases we covered that actually apply to you.
So in your head, you might say, I woke up, I drank coffee, I did the school run.
That quick repetition, even if it's internal, it starts to solidify the language instantly.
Precisely. You're already practicing thinking in English. Okay, so the morning rush is over. Now we shift to the professional day. And that means, of course, the commute.
The commute. It's more than just travel, right? It's that specific journey from home to work. You might drive, you might take the bus, or hop on the subway.
Or the underground, which, as the sources always say, is just universally crowded during rush hour.
There's another great phrase the sources brought up, a grueling commute.
Ooh, what's that?
That's for when the journey is really long, stressful, just exhausting. It's not just a drive, it's a slog.
That's a fantastic piece of vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
So you survive the grueling commute, you finally arrive at work, you greet your
colleagues. The people you work with, you might catch up with them for a minute before settle in at your desk.
And the morning often kicks off with that classic work ritual, the morning meeting.
Right. And it's a dedicated time to touch base, to plan out the week's goals, and to, discuss ideas. It's a very structured check-in,
Fueled by more coffee, I assume?
inevitably. But after all that morning focus, it's so important to mentally clock out for a bit. It's time for a lunch.
Lunch is so vital. And the most relatable part from the source material was about the social side of it.
Mhm.
Taking lunch with friends from work.
Exactly. You grab a sandwich or pick up a salad, but what's the one thing you don't talk about?
Work.
Never work. You talk about life, you unwind, you relax your brain. You're not just eating, you're actually creating a separation from the job's intensity.
And the language reflects that. If you say you're rushing through lunch, it means you ate super fast because you were busy.
But if you take a proper lunch break, it implies you sat down, you took the full hour. That distinction is key for describing your day accurately.
Speaking of shifting the routine, let's use the afternoon to introduce some new vocabulary, something that moves beyond just the office.
Okay, like what?
Let's imagine you have a special appointment scheduled for the middle of the day, and we can use this appointment to talk about health, which is a huge topic in English conversation.
A doctor's appointment.
Close. The appointment is with a nutritionist.
Ah, nutritionist. So that's a specialist, a person who knows all about food and health. Sort of like a food doctor?
Exactly. They help you analyze your food intake and develop a practical dietary plan. This is moving way past simple words and into, professional self-care vocabulary.
And you go to this consultation to learn how to eat healthy food and avoid those common pitfalls, like
Too much pizza or cake. The sources were very specific about that.
the eternal struggle. And the nutritionist's advice gives us these great memorable phrases to practice, like eat more vegetables, eat more fruit.
Drink more water. And my personal favorite, cut back on cookies.
Cut back on, that's a great phrasal verb. This vocabulary is so useful because it allows you to talk about taking care of your health in a really specific way.
That's the key distinction, right? You're not just saying, I am healthy. You're using active verbs. I need to cut back on carbs. I'm trying to prioritize my water intake. That is a huge leap in skill.
It absolutely is. Okay, so the consultation is over, the last work email is finally sent, and the day is winding down. Now it's time for the evening commute.
You arrive home, tired but happy. And the sources paint such a relatable picture here. You sit on the sofa for maybe 1 minute.
Just enough time to decompress.
Exactly. Before the evening routine kicks in, starting with dinner time.
And this is where we see that mix of planning and health again. Did you have time to cook dinner? Maybe something healthy like soup or grilled chicken with salad?
Or did you just order takeout? Being able to express that choice shows you can talk about planning.
And dinner is also that key family connection time. You sit at the table, everyone catches up on their day.
You ask the kids, how was school? You're using English to describe real human connection.
And once dinner's done, it's time to tackle the dishes or tidy up the kitchen. And then comes the reward, relaxation.
The sources list 2 classic ways to wind down. First, you might watch a little bit of TV. Maybe you stream a funny show to help you forget the stress of the day.
Or second, you could read a book, which is described as the quiet and peaceful way to ease into sleep.
But this is where the source material gives us its single best piece of actionable advice. The key to overcoming that mental block we talked about at the start.
What is it?
Before you fully switch off for the night, there's one very helpful thing you can do.
And that is planning for the next day.
Yes. Even if you're exhausted, taking just 5 minutes to jot down a small to-do list is a total game changer.
Just simple things, right? Like buy milk, call your mom back, finish the report.
But why does that matter so much? What's the so what here?
Because it clears your mind.
Yeah.
You've externalized all those little tasks onto paper. That means you don't have to remember them in your head anymore.
And if you don't worry about forgetting something,
You can sleep better. It's a fundamental psychological benefit. Your final actions for the day are peaceful. You brush your teeth, you get into pajamas, and you hit the pillow.
wow, we have covered the entire day,
Yeah.
from basic verbs to really dynamic language.
We talked about rolling out of bed, handling a grueling commute, learning to cut back on cookies.
And finally, hitting the pillow with a clear mind. Let's just quickly review a few of those key phrases. Hit the snooze button, the school run, grueling commute, touch base, unwind, cut back on, and jot down.
Mastering those means you can really narrate your day with confidence, which brings us to the key to confidence.
The practice challenge.
Yes, we want you to internalize this knowledge, make it automatic.
So the challenge is this. Narrate your day in English.
What does that mean exactly?
It means when you're doing something, you say it in English, but in your head. So
Yeah.
when you're making your coffee tomorrow morning, you think to yourself, I am making coffee. When you're walking, I'm walking to the bus stop.
This helps you practice thinking in English without any of the pressure of performing for someone else. It's a safe space to build that fluency.
And if you do want to practice out loud, the sources had a great suggestion for a safe, private place.
Let me guess. The car.
Close. The shower. No one is grading you in there.
That's true. And if we connect this all back to the bigger picture, having this vocabulary and routine, it isn't just about language, it's about life organization. A well-described routine can make you feel more organized and genuinely less stressed.
But we have to remember, the day isn't only about productivity. We learned vocabulary for health, like cutting back, and for happiness, like unwinding with friends. Those things are just as critical as finishing a report.
That brings us to our final thought. We've focused a lot on planning, on organization, on efficient language, all things designed to reduce stress. But we'd encourage you to think about how the structure of your day contributes not just to your productivity, but to your emotional well-being, your happiness.
So for your final practice, try to answer this question for yourself in English. Use some of the new phrases you learned today. What is your favorite part of the day?
Is it the quiet time in the morning, the lunch break where you get to unwind?
Maybe the relaxing evening? Or is it simply hitting the pillow at night? Take a second right now to think about that.
Keep practicing, keep narrating your life, and keep learning. We really hope this deep dive helps you move beyond those few basic verbs and start describing your incredible, detailed life with confidence.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.